man that champion, because he is certainly rather good at it.
So we're seeing similar bans to last game thus far. Elise and Orianna taking off the cards. There's a Xayah ban actually from the Misfits. So maybe they'll leave Rakan open. It means then they don't want a Xayah first pick either, which is what they did last time. There's the Zac from ROCCAT. No surprises there.
Now looking at other bans, in Game 1 they did ban away the Thresh. This time they're leaving it open so that they can first pick it, but I think the ROCCAT would actually be pretty comfortable picking the Rakan into the Thresh. With the amount of mobility that he has, it's actually very difficult for Thresh to land a lot of the hooks. But you then have what should be a very exciting bottom lane too, because you have both supports that are really looking to go in for that all-in. But the AD carry pool now really has thinned out a little bit, and a part of me feels like we could see a Sivir coming out from ROCCAT. I have had some cool discussions with some players about the possibility of Sivir before the split started, and a lot of people like Varus, Ashe, way too strong right now, but Sivir is a champion that Hjarnan has had a lot of experience on in the past. It was one of his go-to champions, and I think with the current cost reduction and a lot of the crit items, it could be a champion that could be very strong right now.
Yeah, as you say, Hjarnan's played a huge amount in the past. There's the Syndra ban. Thresh first pick for the Misfits, and Galio looking towards a jungle pick here for Pridestalker as well. Might go back to the Kha'Zix, what he had last game. Worked out okay for ROCCAT in the end.
So far, all ROCCAT are doing is they're guaranteeing a power pick that can be flexed. Remember, you can put Galio in the mid lane. Very popular over in Korea. And Pridestalker, he's just getting a comfort pick, something that he can farm on. We have talked a lot about how he's not really about ganking a lot during the early game. He's not the sort of jungler that tries to exert a bunch of pressure and snowball his lanes. He's more about the farm style, so Kha'Zix tends to fit that a little bit more. Maxlore, once again, going for the Lee Sin. We didn't see a huge amount from him in the early game, but now that he's paired up with a Thresh, one of IgNar's most successful supports, I'd like to see him moving back towards the bottom half of the map.
I'd actually like to see Misfits put a lot of priority on PowerOfEvil as well. He's been one of their standout members. Even in games they lose, he's been playing incredibly well. So I'd like to see them try and get him something strong in this draft phase. Orianna and Syndra already taken away. Betsy is going to lock in the Kog'Maw here. It's going to go over to Hjarnan, we have to expect. Not a pick we see too often, although it does creep up from time to time.
We saw it twice in the G2 versus Fnatic series. It died a lot.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, but they did have the Lulu Kog'Maw bottom lane. I think that Kog'Maw can do fine against champions like Varus, like he trades pretty well, but it's so risky to pick him. You do have like a decent protection composition, but I do not want to see a ROCCAT lock in a Lulu right now. Not only do I think that's not a great support for Wadid, I also think that it's really bad to Thresh. You are so squishy, it's super easy to one-shot you, especially with the Varus. I think ROCCAT go for something like a Brawl. I think it does well into the Thresh, it offers good peel, and it just synergizes very nicely overall with the composition.
Does well into Varus as well. When he's trying to chuck out those piercing arrows, you can just put up an unbreakable wall. The Lulu ban from Misfits, obviously they thought perhaps, ROCCAT go for the Blitzcrank. Okay, screw the Lulu ban, let's have a talk about this Blitzcrank. That is not a pick either of us expected to see.
Well, sorry to burst your bubble. I made a tweet about it the other day saying that I've been seeing a lot of Blitzcrank all over the world recently.
That was during the Unicorns of Love series that I cast.
Before the Unicorns of Love series.
But
the thing about Blitzcrank is, over in the LCK, he's been picked very readily with champions like Xayah specifically, because you get hooked in, you get knocked up. It's super easy for Xayah to land that burst combo with the E, and basically just like it's that all-in engaged sort of composition. And against low mobility carries, Blitzcrank does very well. Now, I personally have never seen it paired up with a Kog'Maw. I think that there are elements of risk, because in terms of your laning phase, you lose so much pressure. But it has fantastic pick potential, and we know that Wadid is really good at finding picks.
So now we're looking towards this final pick from ROCCAT. Of course, that Galio could be flexed towards the jungle if ROCCAT decided to do it. They're not going to. Taliyah for Betsy in the mid lane. Just a push matchup into PowerOfEvil's Cassiopeia. This is a matchup we've actually seen a lot in Korea as well. Faker playing it against, I think it was against Ever8.
Yeah, I mean, like, Cassio has been considered a pretty strong pick, and Taliyah in general, largely because of how well she can trade. It's one of those sort of, I would argue it's a bit more of a skill matchup, largely because, sure, if PowerOfEvil can get in range of the Taliyah, he will always win out in that 1v1 because his sustained DPS is so strong. But Taliyah is naturally good at kiting, thanks to the work ground, thanks to just the Q and just the amount of mobility that you get as a champion. Like, she's really good at keeping Cassio just out of range. So depending on how you position and depending on how good you are at skill shots, it can go either way. But in terms of the laning phase, it'll certainly be an exciting one.
Maxlore looking for redemption against his former teammates. Make sure you join the conversation online. Go to the @LOL eSports Twitter and put hashtag MSF win if you think Misfits are going to even out the series, and hashtag ROC win if you think ROCCAT are going to be able to close it out 2-0. We are going to get onto the Summoner's Rift. It's game 2 of this series between Misfits Gaming and ROCCAT, and we have a Blitzcrank pick locked in for ROCCAT.
Also worth highlighting that we have another big teamfight composition coming out from the side of Misfits. They have a little bit more room to play around now in terms of the 1-3-1 because Jarvan can go off into a side lane and he will happily hold his own against the Galio, and Cassio can go off onto a side lane too because of her fantastic trading power. The problem is neither of those champions have globals. Betsy has a semi-1, and so does Phaxi. So it's so much easier for them to regroup with the rest of their team if they have a PowerOfEvil and Alphari split off onto a side lane.
I think alongside that as well, Misfits haven't shown me recently they can play a strong macro game. They haven't shown me they can play the 1-3-1. We brought up the Alphari stats in the last game, and he tends to fall behind in his lane and not have that much impact. Even if they can get ahead slightly, can they rely on these members to actually enact a 1-3-1 properly?
Well, I'm sure the Misfits coach and the Misfits team
you've got to have
a lot of confidence.
You've got to have confidence and trust. Well,
sure,
Maxlore definitely has a lot of confidence. Yeah, we'll face SKT in the finals, guys.
Yeah, that's the long goal. But right now, Pridestalker seems to have his number. But in terms of what Maxlore could do in the early game, bottom lane is another great prospect for him to try and gank. Mid lane is actually a really valuable place to gank as well. Largely because Taliyah, she doesn't have that innate escape tool. Sure, she's got a lot of kiting power and she's got a lot of base movement speed, but she's still very similar to champions like Hjarnan, that when they have no flash, super easy to kill.
You see how strong ROCCAT were in that last game. Only had 2 team deaths. That's the least since last August. It's a long time ago. Betsy's going to trade onto PoE. The Twin Fang's doing quite a lot of work. Actually, Corrupting Potion on PoE here. Doran's ring on towards Betsy.
Really powerful trading tool. Does suggest that you want to try and be active during the laning phase, put a lot of pressure down onto your lane counterpart. Other thing to notice about the 2 mid lanes is they have gone for the Storm Raiders Surge. We've been seeing it a lot more on many champions in the current meta across the world because that bonus boost of movement speed that you get when you do a chunk of damage is extremely valuable, not only for escaping, but also for just walking up, chip damage, then escape. But also the additional reduction in movement speed that you get from that active, very, very helpful as well. So I think that if you can pick it up on a lot of mid laners or just champions in general, you should try and get it.
And let's have a look back down towards this bottom lane. Hjarnan here on a hyper carry in the Kog'Maw, getting pushed in. But last game he had an incredibly strong performance and has had an incredibly strong performance across the entire split. First in damage percentage, first in damage per minute, and second place in the AD carry role for that kill participation.
Yeah, this guy was a standout performer last split, and many people may not have recognized it because in the early part, ROCCAT was struggling, but Hjarnan was the consistency. He was the guy that was always playing well, and coming into this split, he has had some great games. The bottom lane of ROCCAT have been performing extremely well, and if we just look back at last game, they are the large part as to why ROCCAT were able to get themselves the win. Now they're on a Kog'Maw and a Blitzcrank, and we've talked a lot about the other matchups. Let's just focus in on how this works. You get pushed in. It sucks during the laning phase. You don't have a huge amount of wave clear. You don't have a huge amount of trading power. What you're looking for is when the bottom lane is looking to push, you try and go for that cheeky hook. You try and catch them off guard. And sure, while Thresh can be pretty tanky, as long as you get that chip damage, that damage over time, it's just to try and deter Misfits from trying to play too aggressively. And you just want to farm as much as you can.
See Pridestalker actually tracking Maxlore in his own jungle here. This is something that he wasn't able to do too well in Challenger Series. When he came in, didn't respect the enemy jungler. We talked about it in game 1. Sometimes got caught out because he wasn't willing to track the enemy. Here, Maxlore comes around to the red buff, looks to see perhaps if he can make something happen around the Krugs. Pridestalker's ready. He has that ward down, and he can keep track of that Lee Sin.
And that's very valuable for players like Phaxi too, who have to deal with the ever-aggressive Alphari. Bit of a throwback to when you and I used to cast him back in the UK scene. Very well known for playing carries all that time ago.
And I thought it would be his split, because there are a lot more carry top laners that are available, but he hasn't really proven that he can be that carry we saw in the UK scene. Now, of course, the level of opposition in the UK scene is vastly different to here, but it's still something, the mechanics, the style of play, the mentality you think would carry over. And perhaps all he needs is one good game to get himself started.
And bear in mind, you can already see him winning out on a lot of these trades. He has the CS advantage, and what you can do with this is set up for a dive onto a Galio before he gets a lot of his core items. Like, ideally, if you can kill him before he gets the triple Dorans, that's the best time to do it, because at that point, he really starts to get pretty tanky, especially once he's got a few levels under his belt. But just keep an eye on Maxlore. Like, we talked a lot about how he has way more options. Sure, in the bottom lane, it can be a little difficult because you see Handsummer and IgNar always pushing in. The mid lane, the fact that Betsy's primarily just wave clearing, leaving, wave clearing, leaving also makes it difficult. But I still feel like Maxlore can look to try and set things up, as we do see him hanging around the river.
It looks like Phaxi might be the one to set things up. He's come down. Pridestalker's here as well. He'll go back up towards top lane, though. Maybe thought Alphari was going to come mid. It's something we saw the mysterious monkeys do yesterday. Bring that Jarvan into the mid lane, catch the mid laner out, and then be able to get some kills. Wadid there. There's the dark passage for Handsummer, though.
And these are the nice little trades that you can have when you are playing with the Blitzcrank. Get those hooks as the support tries to go for a roam.
Yeah. Hook on towards Wadid as well. It's Q for Q. Actually, a positive trade there for Misfits in the bottom lane, perhaps surprisingly so. Maxlore is continuing to invade Pridestalker's jungle, and Pridestalker doesn't want any of that for the time being.
And look, he has the freedom to do this because PowerOfEvil has pushed up mid lane, Handsummer and IgNar have pushed up bottom lane as well, and now IgNar, he's also roaming into the jungle to just provide that support. Now the question is, what is the goal here of Maxlore? Does he want to try and steal this away, or does he want to try and do a little more?
Well, he's trying to get on towards Pridestalker. Does land the Q, just forces him back. The Misfits being a little bit more aggressive in this early game. It's to be expected. They've got summoners on their bot laners, so they can be a little bit more aggressive.
Makes a slight difference, yeah.
But that pushing priority that they have and the ability for the Cassiopeia to roam down means they've gained perfect vision control in the river, and across the pond, Pridestalker is struggling a little bit.
Problem is, Maxlore, he's losing a lot of experience sitting in the enemy jungle all the time. And sure, Pridestalker, he's taking a lot of damage, but Maxlore needs to try and get something off the back of this.
Look at the respect from Pridestalker. This is something that Challenger Series Pridestalker would not have done. Is understand Maxlore could still be there, and he could still try and harass you down.
He does also have a ward. That also helps.
Yes, I mean, that helps, but you have to look at your ward. Something that I've learned in solo queue is not many people do that. TP in, Pridestalker ignited, he's going to jump away. The TP's coming in. PowerOfEvil actually jumps all the way forward, tries to get him down. That's first blood for Misfits. Are they going to just go for the dive in? Hjarnan flashes away. Here comes the Cataclysm, here comes the double kill, and here come the Misfits.
Triple kill for PowerOfEvil. We wanted to see more activity in the early game. We wanted to know what Maxlore was spending so much time doing in the enemy jungle, and it was all to set up for this bottom lane tower dive. 3-0 Cassiopeia in the middle lane. And this is exactly what we used to see from Spring Split Misfits. IgNar, he moves up with Maxlore. They have the vision of Wadid, and it is not IgNar who gets caught, it is Wadid. They're just waiting. They know that PowerOfEvil is going to get to the bottom lane first. He's constantly been pushing Taliyah underneath her tower, and with the TP from Alphari, there's nothing that you're going to do with that Jarvan tanking at the tower and the burst damage that they have as a 5-man squad.
And they know they have TP advantage as well, because Phaxi had to teleport back to get that minion wave earlier on. He's nowhere near close enough to jump in with the hero's entrance. I love it for Misfits. It's such small amount, no hesitation. I was going to say small amounts of hesitation, but there wasn't even a minuscule amount there. They were just willing to go, PoE flashing forward, getting the kill, and then they say, yes, we're going to dive. And there is an Archangel Staff already on PowerOfEvil, a completed item before Betsy even has 2 parts of his own first tier item.
And let's just backtrack to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this game too, which was that, sure, ROCCAT, you know what to do when you have a lead. It's wonderful to see. But now, you are not the team with the lead. You had more of a standard laning phase. Misfits were the proactive team that were able to find an opportunity that has now put them in a position of control. And how well will ROCCAT be able to handle it? Because we have seen a perfect or near enough perfect execution from Misfits in their first game against NIP, when they were able to get the lead, their ability to play around Baron, their early tower control, everything was impressive. Can Misfits do the same to ROCCAT right now?
And even if they can delay the game, do they win later on? You're playing into a Cassiopeia who scales up so incredibly well. Do ROCCAT have the tools later on? Can this Kog'Maw do enough with the protection facilitated by Phaxi and by Betsy to actually shred through this Misfits lineup?
Well, I think it'll be difficult simply because of the amount of stuff that can kill you. Like Jarvan and Lee is a really annoying combo to deal with. And sure, even if you have the hero's entrance, like what you can do is you have Alphari dive in with a bunch of burst, and then Maxlore follows him up with the safeguard, and then you have an easy avenue to kick that Kog'Maw back into the rest of your team for the Cassio to then sink her fangs into the not Kog'Maw, which is always nice to see.
Thank goodness. Although it would play into the fact that we are on a Summoners with Safari.
That is very true. You know, I've been on a safari.
Have you actually?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
When I went to Kenya, I went on a safari, and the funniest part about that trip was when I thought I'd saw a leopard.
Seen.
Yeah, I saw. Sorry, I thought I had seen. You're right. I thought I had seen a leopard, and I was like, "Oh, look, a leopard! A leopard!" I very quickly realized it was a log, and then all of the other tourist vans behind us stopped to check because they too had thought they had seen a leopard, and we spent a good 30 minutes watching this idle leopard, which turned out to be a log.
Could have just been asleep the entire time. Leopards are very sneaky.
It's true.
Good at camouflage. Wadid here trying to come up towards the mid lane, seeing perhaps if he can catch PowerOfEvil out. No flash, of course, on the Cassio. Pridestalker's gone up towards top, and there actually might be a play towards this top lane tower, as Pridestalker and Wadid will be up here. Don't think they have quite enough damage to take it down yet, but they may do. Alphari just about to get his teleport back off cooldown, so might try and stop the first tower blood from going down.
Oh, a bit of an oversight there from Misfits. The fact that ROCCAT can just very freely send 3 members up to the top side, get themselves the first tower of the game. We'll give a big gold influx back into ROCCAT's pocket. And we'll also open up the map a little bit more for Phaxi to roam around and maybe look to make some kind of action happen in the bottom side. And notice, like, Wadid was able to leave bottom lane, roam all the way to the top, assist with the tower, and then is able to come back down to this bottom tower simply because Misfits were not properly utilizing the pushing power that they had.
And it's the power of having mobility boots as well on the Blitzcrank, something we see so commonly, just to be able to get around the map a little bit quicker. However, Misfits do have a lead on the scoreboard, 3-0, 1,000 gold lead, and a big CS differential in that bottom lane as well. Hjarnan is the one this time, surpassing his opponent with a 30 CS advantage. Petrifying gaze onto Betsy. PoE is going to walk forward. Seismic Shove does not connect. Pridestalker with the Void Assault looking for the engage. Here's Alphari. He comes from behind. There is a heal on towards Betsy. They need to be careful. Maxlore runs straight into Pridestalker. The kick back. PoE. Pridestalker jumps forward with Wadid with the flash static field. Betsy will get taken out as well. Alphari gets hooked in by Wadid. Phaxi's off towards the side, but Hjarnan has yet to be attacked. Alphari's on his way. Phaxi needs to defend the Kog'Maw. If you can't, he's going to be extinct like the skin he uses. Hjarnan's still alive, but Phaxi's been left for dead. Misfits with 3 kills, only losing 1 man.
This time, ROCCAT are able to at least get 1 kill in return as Hjarnan.
Wadid gets... Why is Wadid going for that hook?
Because he can,
yeah, just because you can doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Yes, he's able to get the hook. He does get the heal out from Hjarnan.
Sure.
But overall, Misfits will be the ones to come out on top. 3 kills in their favor, a mid-tier 1. And we can just see how this plays out. Pridestalker doesn't realize that he's on a ward. Maxlore's fully aware that he's here, so he's able to react in time. He would have got out if it wasn't for the flash ulti coming out from Wadid. And then just the rest of the collapse. Alphari was already making his way down, trying to get this kill down onto Betsy. And Phaxi, I believe he TP'd into the river, trying to get the flanker onto Misfits. But with only 2 members, with only the Kog'Maw, at this point in the game, you just don't have the damage to be able to win out against Hjarnan and IgNar. And just a trade of summoner spells. Good sidestep from Wadid.
He did get the Ignite down as well, so I guess it's worth a good sidestep, as you say. We are just in a replay of watching Pridestalker not look too happy with the way that turned out. Not respecting the fact that he may have been on some vision. We've got the GLP finished on towards Betsy, Blade of the Ruin King as well on Hjarnan, and it's a Banshee's Veil for PoE as his second item. He's 6-0-0, all of the kills sitting on this Cassiopeia.
And PowerOfEvil has been one of the most consistent performers recently for the team. He's been doing extremely well, and the fact that all of this gold has been inputted onto him, he is the sort of player that can carry when he has this kind of a lead. I remember back to his LeBlanc of Spring. When he does have these carry champions, he can be quite the monster. So having a second item Banshee's completed at 14.5 minutes into the game, that is one very happy mid lane.
You might wonder why the camera in the bottom screen went off a little bit there. Someone told them there was a leopard waiting on the side of the Summoner's Rift. It turned out it was just a log sitting off towards the bottom side. Tower for tower traded still. 3 members of ROCCAT down towards the bottom side. Rift Herald gets taken for Misfits, and we talked about this in picks and bans. It's all about how you trade and how you play when you're ahead. Misfits very much ahead here. Have actually sent 5 people up towards the top side. They have the Rift Herald as well if they want to bring it down.
Looks like they're not committing though. They already have the mid tower. I feel like the best utilization of that Rift Herald would actually be onto the bottom tower. Get a push going for Alphari, get a big minion wave stacked up, and then just drop it, help them take the tower down. If ROCCAT invest a number of members into that top side, Misfits can look to try and make a play around the top half of ROCCAT's jungle, where you can see they've invested a huge amount of vision.
It's a very interesting thing you say that, because you're a lot smarter at League of Legends than I am.
Debatable, but carry on.
You are. Your job is analysis. My job is shouting. And I look at that bot lane tower and I say, it's pretty low. Why don't you play around mid and try and get a big chunk down a tower there so that you can take it down later on? However, I wasn't thinking about the fact you draw members to the Rift Herald as well. And by drawing the members down there, it opens up that mid lane tower or opens up that top lane tower for you to make a play.
It also allows you to be better set up for things like the Dragon too. So if you have that tower taken down, it gives you a bigger window for Misfits to try and force a fight onto ROCCAT, which they are more than happy to do given the strength that they currently have.
Alphari has teleport. Phaxi, no TP on him, but does have the hero's entrance. Misfits will want to wait just a little bit and let Alphari push out that top lane. And when Phaxi reacts, that's when Misfits will want to pull the trigger.
So I'm just looking at Misfits right now. I feel like Maxlore needs to stop farming Raptors, and he should go bot. They should just group as a 3-man, push this up, and just secure that tower, because it will force ROCCAT back, and then Misfits can properly set up vision through the river to then better get this dragon. Because I think that ROCCAT, they're not in a position to fight right now. They have to deal with the wave in mid, and you need to throw down that Rift Herald sooner rather than later.
Well, they are going to get the tower without the Herald, but they can still use it as pressure in that lane. Alphari is clearing out a Scuttle Crab for himself up towards the top side, still has the TP advantage. Phaxi, all the way in the top lane, a long way away from the next fight if it happens down towards this Cloud Drake. But it is only a Cloud Drake. It's not the most impactful dragon in the game. Rift Herald was taken, I want to say, around the 15-minute mark, so it might have a couple of minutes left. I'm sure we'll find out exactly when it was.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't have a huge amount of time left. You should definitely just use it at some point. It would be a massive waste not to. It does only have a 4-minute timer, so even if you get it at 11 minutes, you have to use it by 15, etc., etc. But I'm sure they will use it. And again, like we've talked about it a lot and the pressure that it can draw. But the problem is with Baron not on the cards, the best thing that Misfits could hope to get is the Dragon, which right now they have full control over, so they don't even need to utilize that. So like the best thing that they can, like there isn't really a best thing for them to get. The best thing they can do is just like put it in mids, get a bit of damage down, and be like, yay, but then it'll very quickly get killed. So.
Well, it was actually taken at 14:42 exactly, so they have 50 seconds. 50 seconds or so to decide where they want to put it. Hopefully they have already decided, and this is all part of their grand plan to take down ROCCAT. They're looking a lot stronger, are the Misfits. They've got pushing lanes in bot and in mid, and Maxlore and IgNar are dancing between the two, deciding exactly where they want to go.
I think that right now bot would be the better option because Taliyah has slightly stronger wave clear. Hjarnan does have flash, but you could go for a flank around him. So there it is, finally comes out.
20 seconds to spare,
and
Vedius.
As a 4-man unit, bear in mind Taliyah had to wave clear in the mid, but the wall...
Oh, this is so nice, because what this does is it splits the Herald away from Misfits. They will get a lot of damage on the tower.
Ooh, they might get it. Hit it!
Oh, the hook! That's why you pick Blitzcrank. Wadid with the mind games. They call Hjarnan the brain. It's actually Wadid.
Well, they do keep that tower alive, just barely. But now Misfits immediately rotate back to the top side. Baron spawning in a minute. The investment for Misfits is let's get control. Let's look for a pick. And they found one.
Wadid gets hooked to play back. He's going to flash. Misfits happy enough with that for the time being. Now, you weren't quite as excited as you should have been about that hook, because we big up outplays in every other role, right? Cinder presses R, we're like, oh my goodness gracious me, she's done a big outplay. Wadid just saved a tower.
He did.
That is incredibly impactful. What play from the Blitzcrank. Give supports the credit they deserve, Vedius.
Yeah, good job, Wadid. Really good job. Apologies, I did not
He's also
acknowledge your
got the only kill on his team as well.
Yes, Wadid, the true hero of ROCCAT.
He has been over the last weeks, though. He's been one of the main carries for the team from that support role.
All those engages pale in comparison to the hook landed down in bottom lane to keep that. I could see that making it to the like the big plays.
Yeah, the big plays. I think we should definitely have that at the end. Baron is about to spawn. 5 seconds left on that. Misfits in a comfortable position. 3,500 gold ahead. However, all it takes is PowerOfEvil dying early on in a fight, and they lose a massive amount of that gold lead.
And now we have a 5-man group for ROCCAT in the middle lane. Alphari is putting pressure on bot. Misfits, they've set up a very comfortable 1-3-1. A lot of wave clear. ROCCAT, they're struggling to find answers. And this is what we're seeing more and more from ROCCAT. When the bottom lane, specifically, is not getting an early lead, they struggle to know what to do.
Here he is, here's the Weaver's Warder looking for the Cassio. There's a fight down towards the bottom side as Wadid gets jumped on, but PowerOfEvil trying to flash away. The flashy plays, PowerOfEvil survives. Pridestalker eventually gets the shutdown. Now it's a 4v3 as ROCCAT try and run away. Jumped in, the flash Hjarnan trying to get himself away. Maxlore so low, the Sonic Wave does not connect. Phaxi's dead, the hook just off towards the side of the Kog'Maw. Hjarnan running for the wind. But can he escape from the Misfits?
Here comes IgNar.
There you go, Hjarnan trying to trade in. Cannot kill Summer. There's a killing spree for the Varus.
And Misfits get a full-on 5v5 team fight. PowerOfEvil, he almost got himself the 2v1 outplay. He just too much damage in order to be able to win out. Regardless, Misfits, they're happy as Pridestalker trying to get something back. And instead, he gets a Sparta right in the face.
That's pretty strong kick there. Maxlore knocking the insect back. Let's have another look at this fight. PoE and Pridestalker is the place I was watching.
So yeah, you can see in the top side, they try to get the collapse because they feel that PowerOfEvil is cut out of position. They do not respect his damage, and a really good flash from PowerOfEvil to dodge out from the main damage-dealing ability of the Taliyah. Meanwhile, the rest of Misfits, they're fighting a 4 versus 3 in the river. ROCCAT have lost the main damage dealers because they're purely relying on Hjarnan. The best thing he can do is hit onto Alphari, who's so tanky at this point. He's just soaking up all the damage to freely allow Summer to shred through the rest of ROCCAT. And when you're all alone, when you're just a simple Kog'Maw, there's very little that you can do against the dunk.
And it's the reason we were worried about the Kog'Maw pick when we were in picks and bans as well. We said, can they protect him? Yes, he put out 2,500 damage, but compare that to Summer, he put out 2,000 damage more. PoE was an absolute god there as well, with 4K compared to only 500 from Betsy, just dodging around all those threaded volleys. PoE has shown us why he's such a well-respected mid laner in the European LCS.
And now we're seeing the drawbacks of this Blitzcrank. Was it really the most effective pick?
Yes, it saved a tower.
Yeah. All right. It did one good thing.
Don't doubt, Vedius.
Ult.
Chains onto Hjarnan. Yeah, there's no escape there, mate. Dead as a dodo, and Betsy might be soon to follow. All of Misfits just to collapse straight down. Taliyah's dead, 12 kills to 2. Misfits on a rampage.
Very easy setup. Who'd have thought the Summer would be the engage tool for Misfits to get the pick onto Hjarnan? Betsy follows very shortly, and now the Baron should be very easy pickings as IgNar tries to zone.
Pridestalker can still steal here. They're going to jump across the wall. Here's the hero's entrance, jumping onto Pridestalker. 6,000 HP on the Baron. ROCCAT will get 1 kill. Maxlore jumps towards Pridestalker, but Maxlore almost dies there. Phaxi taunting up 2, and the Baron has reset. They'll lose a kill onto Wadid and 1 onto Phaxi as well, but for the time being, the Baron has not been taken. Pridestalker still has the possibility of a steal here. Smite up. Maxlore, you've been in this situation before. If you miss that D key, you are in for a world of flame on Reddit, I'm sure. Pridestalker, miasma comes down. He can still jump in. PowerOfEvil trying to do what he can. Is Pridestalker going to go for the hero play? 2,000 HP on the Baron. He jumps in. He's dead. He's dead, and so's the Baron. Misfits secure it. And Maxlore thanks his lucky stars that there was no possibility of a steal from Pridestalker.
Very well played there from Misfits. And we just have to backtrack to the very start of this fight because it was a good initiation from Summer. It's always risky utilizing a flash and an AD carry, but it's set up for the kill onto one of the main damage dealers. Betsy immediately got followed up by Alphari, who used his E to proc the Banshees, to then get the reliable ulti down, to deal all the damage to burst him, and this is where we see a lot of engagement. So you can see now, Hjarnan gets stuck in the pit, no longer can he hit anyone else, and he very nearly dies to Baron, but what Misfits successfully do is they get themselves 2 kills. Pridestalker still alive. Just look at all the vision they had around it, though. It would have been so difficult for Pridestalker to get a reliable steal because Misfits knew exactly where he was. And all they had to do was be patient, just share the damage from Baron while slowly chipping him down. And they were able to get the kill, resulting in a very clean Baron.
And that's what we like to see from Misfits. Something else I like to see is other members of the team having kills, apart from just PoE. Hjarnan now 4-0-6 on this Varus has been a stalwart performer for them through this series. And now they extend their gold lead. 10,000 gold ahead, only 25 minutes in. And they're looking for more. There's Taliyah coming in. The hook's going to land on towards Maxlore. TP coming in, though, from Misfits. They want to turn this one around. They've already killed Betsy. And ROCCAT realize they just can't take these fights.
They try to find a hook, but Maxlore's not the target that you want. They seem uncoordinated as they chase onto IgNar.
No flash on Phaxi means that he cannot get that flash engage that he wants. Alphari still splitting in the bottom lane. Actually used the TP to come down here with the Baron buff. We'll be looking for that inhibitor. Phaxi's on his way across to try and stop it for the time being.
And ROCCAT, they're just being dragged across the map right now without Betsy. The big wave clearing tool on the side of ROCCAT. I don't know if they have enough answers to stop the siege from Misfits.
Well, they're going to try to. Wadid walks forward, grounded. Here's the hero's entrance, trying to save the support. It's important to do. And Summer low. Winds of War into Taunt. That's a kill. Pridestalker looking for IgNar. They've got onto PoE as well. Hjarnan dodging away from the Noxious Blast, but gets grounded. Maxlore's going to chase on towards the Kog'Maw. IgNar's down towards the bottom side, but Maxlore and Alphari have joined the fray, and it's a 2v3 until Betsy can get there. PowerOfEvil trying to dodge around. The Cataclysm comes onto Betsy. He jumps in, but PoE's doing a lot. Can Betsy do enough to turn it back around? PoE's still alive. Now he's dead, and it's up to Pridestalker to try and 2v1. Cannot get onto Maxlore. It's an ace for the Misfits as ROCCAT fall to the winds.
And only Wadid will be respawning soon, which means another inhibitor will go in the favor of Misfits. Not the cleanest fight in the world, but they'll be happy with it as their dominance over ROCCAT continues.
21 kills to 6, only 26 minutes in. Almost a kill a minute this game. It has been incredibly bloody. And Misfits are showing that they thrive in these sorts of conditions.
Misfits. They were a little bit shaky in this fight because remember, they are only 3 members in the top. They don't have any major tanks. They try to get themselves a pick onto Wadid, but the damage reduction is huge there. He buys so much time for Phaxi to come in, which actually results in them losing their AD carry. Now, just keep your eyes on PowerOfEvil and his positioning, because he's utilizing the bonus movement speed that he constantly gets on his Q. He's expecting the taunt, Flash predicts it. Always just sidestepping all the main damage dealers. He cannot dodge the knockback from Betsy, but doesn't care. He's just using the sustain that he gets to keep himself alive for as long as possible. Results in a double kill at the very end. And this man, he has been playing on fire as he rounds out his score with a 13-2-4.
That's a pretty beefy scoreline there.
It's not bad, not bad.
Almost, well, he's got 4 completed items as well.
He was so close to 1, 2, 3, 4. And he's ruined it. Unlucky.
I'm sure that's what he's thinking right now, Vedius. Oh, guys, can we remake, please? I haven't got elite scoreline. I could have been 1, 3, 3, 7.
He still can be.
Still get there. He can still get to the
dream.
But at the moment, he is amongst Europe's elite as he continues just to harass down ROCCAT. In mid lane, inhibitor tower has fallen. Hook onto Phaxi. Not quite the target you want, but you'll be happy for the time being if you are Misfits Gaming. In fact, you'll be incredibly happy as you are 13,000 gold in the lead and you are pressuring on towards these inhibitors.
Misfits, they have to answer with the wall now as 2 members get cut off.
Weaver's wall comes down. Hjarnan and PoE are slightly isolated from their team, but Misfits, ROCCAT do not want to get the engage yet. I always wonder why it's a Weaver's wall, why not a Knitter's wall? Could be any type of wall.
Because she's a Stone Weaver medic, she's a Stone Weaver as the second inhibitor goes down.
Looking for the third. Misfits just playing this one by the numbers. Alphari jumps in, massive damage onto Betsy. Hjarnan's still alive though. Blade of the Ruin comes down. Betsy dead. Hjarnan forced off towards the back of the fight. ROCCAT, one last hope for them. 4-man taunt, but it's not enough as Hjarnan had to back away at the back of the fight. Maxlore jumps in, that's a kill. ROCCAT down to 2. Misfits still at 5, and they are looking absolutely devastating. Only 1 kill for ROCCAT as the Misfits clean them up. They'll take the Nexus Towers as well. They're looking for that ace if they can land this onto Pridestalker. Hamsammer spamming out a few laughs as Misfits laugh themselves all the way to a game 3, taking down ROCCAT.
Much better performance from the Misfits squad. 14-2-7. Anyone who has PowerOfEvil on their fantasy team is going to be ecstatic right now.
It's not leaked though, is it? Could have been better.
It's not. It was so close.
It was. 1 death and 1 less kill would have given us leaked.
Regardless, fantastic performance from him and the entire team. 1-0-17 on Alphari. Just a much better team performance overall from Misfits. And what we saw was an inkling of what Spring Misfits were, where they were very good at being able to make plays around the bottom half of the map, normally around the 10 to 15 minute mark. They were very good at being proactive at taking that early tower and snowballing the rest of the game from there. It took them a little while. Well, actually, this was a much faster game, 29.5 minutes. So once they got the Baron, they seemed to know exactly what to do with it.
And they did. Misfits Gaming have tied things up here in this series. Give us the full story, Shox.
Well, I have a lot of questions, so I hope that these guys can give me the full story. And I want to start by taking a look at picks and bans, because it is a bit boggling to me that obviously Kalista was banned out, but when you are ROCCAT, you're kind of struggling to find your form and you're struggling to find wins, and you find such a decisive win in game 1 and you have most of the ingredients available to you again. Why do you then not pick the Rakan again and not pick kind of the same combos?
I don't think the comp was that different from last game. You have Wadid and a playmaker, you have a Galio to follow up, and then you can force these team fights, force the picks around Wadid. I think the plan is still the same. But I agree. I think it's just a weaker version of what happened last time.
Also, just a lot of questions. Hjarnan also had a fantastic game, but I just feel like you're giving up a lot because Blitzcrank and Kog'Maw, although the sustain is now a bit higher, you do have the Doran shield for Kog'Maw. It is rough.
And I think what they were looking for is a quote-unquote similar pick in the sense that you team fight with Kog'Maw in the way that they wanted to with the Kalista in the first game. They're obviously not identical champions, a lot of difference between them, but if you protect the Kog'Maw, theoretically Hjarnan can do the same thing that he did in game 1. However, Blitz not known as a protection AD carry, and while we've been talking a lot about the Doran shield meta and it can get so many supports through and AD carries through the laning phase, Kog Blitz is not a particularly strong laning duo unless you somehow magically hook the AD carry like 2 or 3 times and snowball the lane from there, and that just didn't happen. They got Hamsammer once, I think it was, in the laning phase before they got crushed by the triple kill that came through from Cassiopeia. Yeah,
and on top of that, I said that I thought that Pridestalker and Maxlore were kind of invisible and not that big of an influence. Here, Maxlore is showing Pridestalker, well, all the corners of the rift.
Yeah, and this just shows the importance of one hand knowing what the other is doing. ROCCAT is hooking aggressively with Blitzcrank on the bottom side of the map, taking a fight, while Betsy is back in base and Phaxi in the top lane does not have TP. So 5 members from Misfits in the bottom lane immediately, with ROCCAT only having 3.
And this is a time where they also didn't respect, not only was Betsy back in base, PowerOfEvil had been off the map for a good 30 seconds before that. There were no wards on the way down. It's a Thresh, so he can even make any ganks a little bit more potent, utilizing the Dark Passage of Lantern to get Cassiopeia over the walls, and that's exactly what happened, and Cassiopeia gets the triple kill. Same thing happens a few minutes later, 6-0 Cassiopeia. The game's basically over at that point. It doesn't matter how late this game goes. A Kog'Maw, I don't think, is ever really going to out-duel like Cassiopeia if they catch anything.
Yeah, and to finalize it, let's take a look at one of the final fights, or one of the many fights that Misfits ended up winning. They end up taking Baron, and then it's pretty much a done deal already.
Yeah, on this one again, utilizing Hamsammer's ultimate, great catch onto Hjarnan, and from here, this is just Alphari's strength on the job, and you can clear so much ground, you can get in for the fight, take down Betsy and take the Baron. And
yeah, my issue with that positioning from ROCCAT is that they don't have anything to grab mid. You're not looking to fight here. You do already have vision towards the Baron, so you know the Baron is not getting set up by Misfits, so there's simply no reason to be that far up in the mid lane and getting caught out of position.
Well, now, Guys, riddle me this. I feel like if I looked at these two games as we're going into Game 3, in Game 1, I saw Kalista absolutely getting the kills and ROCCAT pushing an advantage and pushing the snowball. In Game 2, I saw Cassio getting extremely fed, getting kill after kill after kill in teamfights, and Misfits very cleanly pushing a snowball. But I don't think that I've seen that much specifically out of the teams on a macro level if, you know, they wouldn't have gotten those kills. And obviously it's woulda, coulda, shoulda because they did. But not to say that I'm incredibly impressed by one or the other. Are you guys more impressed by Misfits or ROCCAT going into Game 3 from what you've seen? Henning, maybe?
I think ROCCAT's Game 1 was them taking the proactive decisions and picking good fights. And while Misfits was more abusing the mistakes from ROCCAT. So I'd say I'm more impressed by ROCCAT's Game 1 than Misfits Game 2.
I think when I look at it, ROCCAT's Game 1 is all based off the fact that Misfits misread a level 1. In my opinion, at least that bottom lane snowballed so heavily from that. Of course, there's more that goes into it. For Misfits, it was maybe a little more composed from ahead than ROCCAT were playing. ROCCAT had this great wombo combo that just worked very well anytime you threw it at the opponents because you'd always kill 1 or 2 people. I think Misfits a little bit more tempered, a little bit cleaner closing out the game around the Baron objective, that type of thing. So that's the type of thing that I think Misfits did well. I still think Misfits will close this series 2-1.
I was going to say, when I listen to you, I hear Misfits going to take it. Henning, you seem to still have a lot of faith in ROCCAT.
Gotta have faith in ROCCAT. I think, for sure, it's going to be really close. Whoever wins, I think it's going to be a spicy one.
I mean, you put it this way. There's Swedish players on ROCCAT, British players on Misfits. I wouldn't say biased, but, you know.
No. Well, we are in Europe. There's multicultural, all kinds of connections. No longer any Belgians, though, on the Rift, though. No pro players, sadly. Yeah, maybe I need to... I don't know. No, definitely not. Horrible. Anyway.
And the rap career from yesterday.
Yeah. Well, Misfits Gaming and ROCCAT, they have one more chance to take this series. The deciding game is coming up.